All right, cool. Hey, everybody. I want to share a little presentation that I've made in relation to why you struggle to be disciplined. And I don't want to waste too much of your time. So let's get into it. Being disciplined in the pursuit of achieving our goal is hard. Initially, we're motivated and ready to achieve our goal. This includes to give up the habits that don't contribute to the accomplishment of that goal. This could, for example, be waking up at 5 a.m. in order to have a little bit of extra time before going off to your 9 to 5. This is a good habit. But after 1 or 2 days of doing this, the excitement wears off and we notice that waking up at 5 in the morning isn't that fun anymore. We start craving staying in bed longer, so we listen to that voice in our head, and at the end of the day, we notice that no action was taken towards the accomplishment of our goal. Eventually, regrets start to kick in, but we don't really understand why that is happening. We then experience a burst of energy because of the emotions that we feel, and suddenly we want to wake up at 5 in the morning again. We do this task, we want to do that task, we want to do everything at the same time. But the same thing happens again. That's the vicious cycle most of us stay in, and it's rough because it's as if we're running inside of a hamster wheel. So in this video, I want to help you understand why it's hard to be disciplined and how to make being disciplined easier in the pursuit of your goal. So cool. Who am I? My name is Mark Santos. I'm a 28 years old ambitious man who struggled with being disciplined. I struggled with the exact points as I explained before. And for the last 4 years, I spent my time and energy into practicing the skill of discipline and understanding the psychology behind of it. That knowledge is what I want to share with you so that you can get closer to achieving your goal. So let's get into the value. And the very first point I want to get across is answer the question, what is discipline? And so discipline, all it is the act of doing an activity we don't feel like doing in that moment. And there's a specific mindset that I've used throughout the entire journey of me being disciplined that has helped me to remain disciplined in doing the thing that I didn't feel like doing or don't feel like doing. And that is just because we don't feel like doing something doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. A feeling doesn't really impact our lives that badly unless we identify ourselves with that feeling. When we then act on that emotion, it dictates our future. When we don't act on that emotion, it passes and everything remains to be the same as it was before. If the activity we're about to do is not aligned with the goal we want to accomplish, we shouldn't do it. That will be a clear form of disrespect for our future self, who will have to deal with the consequences of the decisions we make right now, or we made in that moment. So every time we don't allow a feeling to be the reason for why we make a decision, then we stop associating that as a parameter to make the decision. And so with understanding this mindset, why is it still so hard to be disciplined? When we want to be disciplined, a change in behavior needs to happen. Any change we want to make, whether good or bad, brings some sort of dissatisfaction. In my experience of changing something, always meant and means letting go of something else I've done before, because it has always been about subtracting things that aren't helping me getting closer to my goal and switching those empty gaps now with new and better activities. Since we humans are emotionally driven creatures, we tend to develop an emotional attachment to a specific habit, even if it wasn't a good one. And that's because we want to avoid being in pain. Because being in pain causes us to be in discomfort. Being in discomfort means that we enter a state of fight or flight. This is a natural state we enter in order to survive. And so we humans, the emotional and interesting creatures that we are, we have been evolutionarily shaped to fight for our survival. And the reason why you and me are sitting here is because our ancestors, and even closer, our parents, have fought to survive the challenges of life in order to put us on earth. That's the only reason why we can be here, because they managed to stay alive. And so I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I want to bring you through a visualization to have you feel what it's like to be in that fight or flight mode in case you haven't. Cool. So imagine being in the woods at night. You're walking around, all happy and at peace. As you inhale the fresh air that enters your lungs, which gives you the sensation as if your breathing capacity has doubled, you suddenly hear some branches cracking to your right side. You notice that something's there, but you don't know what. It could be a deer, or it could be a bear that's ready to kill you. Your breath, that was slow, deep, and long, suddenly becomes shallow and tight. And during that moment, three things can happen. We can freeze, we can fight, or we can flight. Freezing means getting caught up with overthinking and not knowing what to do. By the way, you can open up your eyes. Fighting means trying to kill whatever is going to jump in front of you. Flight means running away as hard as you can and not stopping until you reach a safe location. Both fight or flight means that we're trying to survive. We experience the same thing when we have a challenging task to do that gets us to achieve our goal. Something that gets us outside of our comfort zone. Think of cold calling 500 people in one day and you have to make one sale that day. If you don't, you won't have enough money to pay your rent. And that means that you will be evicted, you'll be kicked out of the house, maybe you'll have to live back to your parents, maybe you have to live with a friend, maybe you'll be outside on the streets. Who knows? Three things will happen. You're going to overthink how to do it, looking up ways of doing it, and so you spend the whole day going through the process of doing the research and you freeze and make no sale. You're going to get started and don't stop until you got the sale, which is the fight, regardless of whether you know how to do it or not. You're just going to keep going at it and you're going to keep going for it. And the third one is you're going to push it for tomorrow, which is a fight, and you're delaying it, procrastinating on doing the task that you were supposed to be doing, where you had to be disciplined on. And so by understanding this, it's important that we fight for our survival. And I want to share the way I've managed to get myself to stay in fight mode, to stick to the good activities and flight from the activities that pull me away from achieving my goal. So, how to make being disciplined easier in the pursuit of your goal. There's a couple of questions that I'd love to ask myself. These are about 5 and I'm going to guide you through them. Question number 1 is, what is my goal? If you're currently dissatisfied about something in life, good, because that's what we want to use. As explained, we are emotional creatures, and so it's important that we use those emotions to reenact the fight or flight mode. So what is the goal you'll need to accomplish that will bring the biggest change in your life right now? The reason why I'm mentioning one goal is also because one goal already requires a lot of energy, skill, and determination to make that happen. There's a lot of nuance attached to it, and the problem is that the more nuance there is to something that you're about to do and need to be disciplined on, the bigger the chance will be that you will get overwhelmed and freeze in the moment. Question number 2 is, why do I want to build an online business? This is, for example, one of the goals that I have. This should actually be, why would I want to build or achieve that specific goal? And so there has to be a personal and emotional reason attached to it. We can use our emotions for us or against us, because at the end of the day, we humans are emotional creatures and we have to leverage that for our own benefit in order to survive. And so an example can be, I want to achieve, for example, I want to build an online business because it will make sure that my wife doesn't have to suffer working a full-time job she hates when all she wants is to have multiple animals to take care of. And so by building an online business, that will allow me to have the financial income to take care of my wife in that regard. Another example can be, I want to achieve an online business because I want to avoid my children from having to work minimum wage jobs because their life wasn't set up in a way to become properly educated. And that could be a result of me not sacrificing it enough. And so this is where we address motivation to change, our purpose to change. Because I've noticed and learned over time that if there's no motivating reason behind our actions, then we would not be interested in doing it at all. And when we don't feel enough pain or have a strong motivation for it, why bother about it in the first place? And so question number 3 is, what happens if I don't succeed or persevere? With this question, we are highlighting the cost of not realizing our goal. We are awakening pain in this moment. And so an example is, if I don't do X activity, this will be the result of it. If I don't make 500 phone calls in one day continuously for the rest of I don't know how long in order to get a sale, then I will not be able to take care of my wife financially. She will have to work a job in order to provide for the bills, to help me provide for the bills, and I won't not be able to take care of my children the way I want to be taking care of them. They will not have the education that I want them to have. They will not be able to invest in the things that they want to invest in order to help them move forward. And so there will be more pain. And that's pain that I want to avoid. And so by wanting to avoid that pain, I have to awaken that pain. And that then brings us to the next question. What are the foreseeable failures that actually hold me back from going through the pain that is required to achieve my goal and fulfill the motivation behind of it? And so with this question, we are highlighting the activities that get us away from accomplishing our goal when we are faced with challenges. This is where we'll be faced with the I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. situation. Answering this question as detailed as possible brings awareness around the activities that get us away from not realizing our goal. And this is what we'll be applying discipline for in order to avoid what will happen after answering question number 3, which is what happens when I don't succeed or persevere through the challenges. And so the last and final question is, who do I have to become in order to achieve the goal that I want to accomplish? And so this is a matter of setting the core values that are aligned with that what you have answered above. If your goal is, for example, losing 30 pounds because it will make sure that you'll have the strength, energy, and stamina to play with your children, then one of the values is working out. For me, for example, one of my values is being disciplined. Because I know that I'm a very emotional individual, and I'm very self-aware of this because I have a trajectory of making decisions that are based off of my emotions. And so that has been one of the biggest things that I've struggled with. And so being disciplined and emotionally in control of my reaction are my values, 2 different values, and also sacrificing because I tend to be selfish and I have to be more selfless in order to accomplish my goal. Thinking more about the people around me rather than for myself alone. And so a good guiding point are the values, because by contradicting our values, we will feel a certain kind of way. We will feel bad. And in order to avoid feeling bad about ourselves, we have to be aligned with our core values. And so they ground us in the pursuit of accomplishing our goal and sticking to the activities that we need to do in order to get us there. So ask yourself, what kind of values support the overarching goal you seek to accomplish? So to conclude this video, the reason why it's hard to be disciplined is because the goal you want to accomplish may not be painful enough for you to bother sticking to the pain of change. Not all the parameters for why the goal is important are highlighted, so it becomes easier to skip a day instead of staying consistent throughout the journey. In whatever stage we are in life, we're always aiming to avoid pain. When we can highlight the pain worth fighting for, everything else that is a contradiction to the pain worth fighting for becomes a more painful reality to live. So may this video serve you in being disciplined around accomplishing your goal. I hope it has brought you some clarity. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about this video. Any feedback is always welcome. And always remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.